Hi, my name is Jenny, and I would like to officially welcome you to my new channel, the Baking, Book, and History Nook. As the title suggests, this channel is going to incorporate three of my hobbies: baking, reading books, and learning about history. Today, we are going to be making a vintage recipe from this cookbook, the Better Homes and Gardens Quick Breads Cookbook. This book was first published in 1975, and as you can see, it still has the price sticker on there. In 1975, it would have cost $2.49. And I'm going to be making a recipe for cherry coffee cake. I think everything is ready to go, so let's get baking. It is time to make our cherry coffee cake. The first thing we're going to do is mix the dry ingredients together in this mixing bowl. The recipe calls for 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. Right now, we're going to be mixing 1 1/4 cups of the flour with baking powder. It calls for 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. It also calls for 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which I mixed in with the baking powder already, and 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. So let's add our sugar, and that is all the dry ingredients. And it says in a mixing bowl to thoroughly stir together the flour, sugar, baking powder, and salt. So I'm going to stir it together now. Here we go. This mixing bowl actually belonged to my great-grandmother, so it's a real privilege to be able to use it. Next, we are going to take 1/4 cup of butter, so I have that here, and cut that into the mixture until it resembles coarse crumbs. I have my pastry blender here, my handy pastry blender. And imagine my great-grandmother probably did very, very similar things with this mixing bowl when she used it many, many years ago. It took a little while to get the consistency right, but the butter is now thoroughly worked in and it does resemble coarse crumbs. I'm actually gonna set the pastry blender aside because we're going to use that again later on to make the topping. But you can see that it resembles coarse crumbs. So the next step then is to add 1 egg, 3 tablespoons of milk. Let's add our egg first though. Don't want to get ahead of myself. And the egg should be beaten. 3 tablespoons of milk. This looks a little bit different than regular milk. It is. I'm actually using almond milk today for this recipe because that's just what I had on hand. Along with the milk and the beaten egg, we need to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So I'm going to shake this up really well. This is a jar for vanilla, but we actually used all the vanilla and then made our own using vodka and vanilla beans. So here we go. I have my 1 teaspoon. Okay. Teaspoon of vanilla. Now I'm going to mix that all together really well. Actually, I already made a mistake. It said I should add the vanilla and the milk and the eggs separately and mix it together and then mix it well. But you know what? It's gonna be fine. It has to be fine. My first video ever and I made a blunder. Oh well. Yeah, that looks good. It's sticky. Look, it's sticky. It's more like it is definitely like a quick bread dough. I was gonna say it's like bread dough, but I mean it is technically a quick bread. It's in the quick bread cookbook. So this is what it looks like, and you could see that it was very sticky and very thick. Before I go on to the next step, I just want to say that I have turned on my oven to 350 degrees so that it can preheat. Wanted to give it some time. The next step then is to spoon the dough or batter into a greased 11 by 7.5 by 1.5 inch baking pan. I greased my pan and I used butter. Scoop this out. See, it's very much like a dough as opposed to a batter. It's in between, but it's more like a dough. And I had a baking pan that was almost the exact dimensions that they gave. So I was very lucky to have that. It was actually my mother's baking pan, so I sort of commandeered it. Just for this recipe, she can have it back when I'm done. Great, so now this is what it looks like. You can see it's just a thin layer in the pan. It's pretty even. Then the next step is I have a 21-ounce can of cherry pie filling. And it says to spoon the pie filling over the top. I have a spoon, and I'll be using a spatula too. But let's start with the spoon. I bought the very cherry kind, the kind that had extra cherries in it. I hope that's okay. We'll see if it works out. I guess maybe that could have been a mistake because you probably get more cherries and less of the sauce then. But we'll see how it works out. I wanted the extra cherries. I don't know about you, but when I see cherry pie filling, it makes me think of being a kid and going camping because my parents had they had those, but the pie irons, that's what they were called. See, here's some of my history. We had pie irons and we used to make what we called pudgy pies in them. So we take them camping and you'd bring bread and butter and cans of pie filling, cherry or blueberry, and you would butter a slice of bread and put that slice of bread, butter side down, into the pie iron. And then you would put filling on the top of it, so either cherry or blueberry. And then you'd butter another slice of bread and put that slice pie side down in the other side, or butter side down in the other side of the pie iron. And then you would put cherry filling was in the middle of the sandwich, and you'd squish them together and you'd close the pie irons so you had butter on the outside, pie filling on the inside of the bread. And then you would cook them over the campfire, and then you'd open them up when they were golden brown and you'd eat them, and they were so good. This is what our coffee cake looks like so far. It's not bad. I'm just going to set that aside here because we are going to make the topping now. We are going to combine, to make the topping, the last of the flour, which is a 1/2 cup, into our bowl. And then a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. I'm sorry, a 1/4 cup of packed brown sugar, which I did pack this when I measured it, and a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And we're supposed to combine that well to make sure I mix that well. I don't want any more mixing errors like when I was making the batter and I forgot to mix the wet ingredients together before adding them to the dry ingredients. That's okay. I'm hoping that it does not impact the flavor or the rise of my coffee cake at all. But this time I'm going to get it right with this topping. And I'm going to laugh at my mistake because this is my very first video ever and hope that I get to make more videos. I hope you guys like this, so I'll make more videos and maybe years from now I'll still be laughing at my blunder in my first video. Okay, so I mixed together the brown sugar, the cinnamon, and the flour, and this is what it looks like. And now the last ingredient is a 1/4 cup of butter. We're going to add that. And then I'm actually going to use my pastry blender again because it says that you want to cut in the 1/4 cup of butter till the mixture resembles coarse crumbs. So it's going to be the same thing that we did before when I mixed the batter. Vintage recipes, they tend to be my favorite. And the ones that came from my grandma and my great-grandma, those are the ones that you remember eating as growing up as a kid and how good it was. Maybe this will be one of those great vintage recipes. And I used my great-grandma's mixing bowl before, so hopefully there's a little magic in there from her. Because I know when I wanted to use that, my mom said, I think great-grandma would be tickled pink if she knew that you were going to be using her bowl in your video. And probably just that I wanted to use her bowl at all. Looks like that, kind of crumbly. I'm supposed to sprinkle this mixture over my cherry cheesecake. Well, oh my gosh, cheesecake. Over my cherry coffee cake. Jeez. You know, it's because the batter underneath there looks like cheesecake filling. I think I'm getting stuck on that. I must be craving cheesecake. Well, I'm having coffee cake, and that's what I'm getting. So we are about to bake our cherry coffee cake. This is what it looks like from the side, and that's what it looks like from the top. And I'm going to pop this into that preheated 350-degree oven and bake it for 45 to 50 minutes. The cherry coffee cake is done, and this is what it looks like. It smells delicious. I think it's baked well. I'm going to let it cool down for a little while before tasting it. I can't wait. You see what it looks like? It looks delicious. It smells delicious. I'm very excited to try it. It seems quite moist. Good crumb. Let's give it a bite. And make sure I get a bite of everything here. Some cherry and some of the topping and the cake. That's very good. It's great cake. You can really taste the cherry pie topping, the cherry pie filling, that's what they call it, filling. The cake is moist. The cake doesn't have a ton of flavor. You can taste the vanilla a little bit, but it's a denser, very moist cake. It's great. The topping is good. There's only 1/2 cup of sugar in the cake, and then there's sugar in the cherry pie filling as well. And then the sugar on the top, it makes it all just sweet enough, but it's not overly sweet. It's just good. I like it. I think I'd make this again. It's a very easy recipe, so you could make this, very quickly if you're expecting guests. I know you can eat it either warm or cold. Supposedly coffee cake is good either way. So if you have guests coming over, you can make it a little bit ahead of time. I read online that with coffee cake, you are supposed to wait at least 15 to 20 minutes to cut it if you want to eat it warm. So if you're gonna have guests over, make sure you have 15 or 20 minutes to let the cake cool if you'd like to eat it fresh and warm and have it with coffee or tea. I think it'd be wonderful with a cup of coffee or a cup of herbal tea. It would be fabulous. So that was the cherry coffee cake from the Better Homes and Gardens Quick Breads Cookbook from 1975. I also wanted to talk just a little bit about the plate that I used here. That is actually a plate that my grandmother gave me years ago, I think probably in the early 90s. It's an Avon plate from their 1876 Cape Cod collection. This is the dessert plates, and it came with a cake server as well, and the dessert plates. And then I have what's it called, a dinner plate, but it's large. It looks more like a cake plate, and they're absolutely gorgeous. And on the back of the box is the story. So it says 1980, and then it says 1876 Cape Cod collection. These two beautiful dessert plates are reminiscent of early American pressed glass called sandwich. It featured lacy, intricate designs, fine background stippling, and exquisite brilliance, which reflected the superb craftsmanship of its makers. And it says that many of these designs in this prized glass were produced in the Boston and Sandwich Glass Works, which was founded on Cape Cod in 1825. And Avon created this unique collection because not only does it recall the beauty of this quality glass, but its name commemorates both the spirit of the 1876 Philadelphia Centennial, which celebrated the 100th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, and it celebrates the area where sandwich glass originated, which was Cape Cod. So I thought that was really cool that the story's on the back of the box, and I wanted to share that little bit of history with you because I guess the early 1990s are technically vintage now. That's a little bit hard for me to say, but it is. And I got to use this beautiful plate today, and as well as my great-grandmother's mixing bowl. So it's nice to have those little bits of history added in. Makes things fun. Thank you for joining me on this first pilot episode of the Baking Book and History Nook. I appreciate you watching, and I appreciate your comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please like it. And if you would like to see more videos, then please subscribe to my channel, and I will make more videos with vintage cookbooks and vintage recipes and everything to do with baking, reading books, and history. Thank you. Bye. I'm gonna eat a really big bite of this piece because this looks good. None of that being all polite and proper.